Hi, I'm Nid. I'm a wellnesspreneur and wellnesspreneur consultant, and in this video we're going to have a quick look at whether or not you may be in an employment or a contractor situation. And the first thing that I want to say about this video is I tried to compare at least 3 different jurisdictions to come up with some common themes to give you a general idea depending on if you move around to different places or depending on where you live. Now, those common themes and the way that the wellness industry works makes it a little bit of a strange video to have to give you guys. And the first thing I want to say is that you really will need to make sure you speak to your accountant about the potential setup and impact of any deals that you're doing for delivering services through another person to see whether or not they view any of those obligations and the way in which you're being paid as being an employee or a contractor relationship. So when most wellnesspreneurs, and that could be a nutritionist, speech pathologist, yoga teacher, fitness instructor, once you certify, you can get insurance and go out and start delivering your services. And that means you're straight away self-employed or a sole trader. And that makes you a business providing your services to the consumer and the public. That's going to bring you straight away into some of the laws around consumer protection and tax. And that means you need to register yourself in your local state for your tax as a business. And that may be called a variety of different labels. And then you're going to have to file taxes each year and make sure you get a good accountant who can help you with really maximizing your expenses so that you are very tax efficient in how you're running your business. You also want to make sure that you're paying any of your pension or super contributions, depending on what it's called in your country, so that you are preparing and saving for your future, as well as any potential loss of income if you were injured or sick and unable to work. It's also important to look at protecting your intellectual property if you're out there delivering services, whether you're creating any content, making websites, social media, and thinking about that aspect because it is your business and that's part of your assets. Should you need to register for anything like VAT or GST or any other federal type of level tax, then it may be dependent on the income bracket that you're at. So speak to your accountant and also speak to your local tax authorities, as it may not be necessary for you to register at the outset of your business if you're not making the money and the thresholds that they require. But then also remember, because you are now a business, you are going to be treated as an equal footing on any potential organisations that you decide to work with. And that could be as a contractor or as an employee. And that's the key thing, is to understand that you are a business and that therefore you want to go into doing deals as you are an equal to the people you're working with and not somebody who doesn't know anything and needs their help. So are you an employee or are you a contractor? So there's kind of 5 general themes that come across all of the jurisdictions that I've been looking at to help with putting this video together. And the first one is your degree of independence from the organisation you're going to be working with. So that kind of means whether or not what you're providing is really integral to the business and whether or not it would not be able to survive without what it is that you're providing. And the degree of freedom that you've got in providing that service. So whether or not you are able to work for other competitors, say, is going to be quite an obvious part of whether or not you've got a degree of independence in what it is that you're doing. But also how and the way in which you provide the services that you're being asked to deliver is going to show how much independence you've also got. But the key is your independence to go and work for other people and whether or not there are any restrictions on your ability to work for competitors. And that includes yourself as a business potentially being a competitor to the organisation you're doing the contract with. So if there is a lot of restriction and they don't want that independence, then it's more likely you're moving towards an employment contract and it's a more exclusive arrangement. And then you want to be quite careful if you're a contractor because that could have a real knock-on effect to the rest of your business. You're then going to also think about risk and opportunity. So when you're a contractor, you are taking on a risk to make enough money or to lose money. So there's this opportunity that it could go really well. There's also the risk that it could fall down. And this may happen when it comes to things like pay. So say the studio pays you a per person rate after a flat rate. There's a bit of a risk there, and there's also an opportunity that you could make a lot of money, but also a risk that you might not get paid very much for your work. What is the degree of control that the organization has? And control will mean the amount of things like policies that you need to follow and deliver. Is there freedom for you to ask somebody else to cover and deliver your work if you're not available? Is it up to you to decide how you deliver the work? How much initiative do you have in completing whatever it is that they're asking you to do? And if there's not much freedom in there and it's very controlled, then you're pointing more again towards that employee relationship where you've got a job description and you have to just deliver and do what's in the job description. Payment is a bit misleading. So a lot of contracts might say that you're a contractor, you're going to pay your taxes, and they don't need to do any benefits or offer you any legal benefits because you're not an employee. And this is one of the reasons why a lot of businesses may choose not to offer you an employment contract, is because of the cost of all these benefits that they need to provide if you're an employee. And that will include things like leave and extra contributions maybe towards pensions and super. Extra care leave, say if you had to care for somebody in your life. These kind of things cost the business quite a lot of money, and if you're a contractor, that's your problem and you've got to suck that up. So they often will try and put you in that scenario. However, if the rest of the contract is not looking like that, then it's going to be a strong case for the tax authorities to say that you're all employees and that they need to have been paying all these extra benefits and providing them out. And that does happen in quite a few scenarios. I came across a spa that had this happen, and they basically had to go into administration because they couldn't afford to then pay all the taxes that they were liable for all of their staff that they suddenly found themselves with, because everyone had always been on as contractors. So it has a big financial implication. But don't be scared of raising this as an issue if the rest of the contract is looking like an employee contract, because it gives you the opportunity to have more freedom, be under less control, and take a bit more of a risk to increase your opportunity to make more money when working with them by negotiating these kind of things. Lastly, the other thing is the facilities and the equipment in which they might be asking you to deliver your services. So if it's a set venue and they've got equipment that they require that you use in order to deliver, it's arguably more an employment relationship, because in most employment relationships, they provide you with the equipment in order for you to do the job that you're doing. Whereas when you're self-employed and you're providing a service, you would often turn up with what your equipment to deliver. Now, I'm very aware that in the wellness world, the majority of the way in which we are contracted to work, whether it's for a studio or someone else, is that we are expected to be contractors. But a lot of this sounds like it may have popped up in your delivery, making you more of an employee. And in the US, this really got picked up by the tax authorities, and a lot of studios had to really rework the way that they structured the way they're running so that they did have their set employees, so that they met that quota, but then they still had a degree of contractors. And this may be something for studios and businesses to have to think about their relationship and how they're engaging with people, because it's really useful for a brand to really care about the control and the delivery and all those detailed policies and have that continuity in what's being delivered for customer relations and marketing. But it also increases that liability, therefore, of them being an employer and having this bigger liability over who it is that they've got providing those services as part of their organization. So being aware of these things when you're going into working with somebody else just means that you can really have this conversation and go through that degree of independence and control. And those key things to think about with independence and control are going to be the degree of freedom that there is to work for other people, any of those restrictions on working with competitors or even in your own business, whether it comes to marketing restrictions and requirements for extra work in marketing and supporting their business that may be in conflict with your ability and requirements for working for your own business or for other people. And this is a way of really understanding yourself as a business as much as it is providing services to somebody else. If you really wanted to become an employee of this organization, then that's something that you would want to really push for if it helps you get better security as well. But also be really aware that because it is a big financial risk for a business to take on employees, it may not be a personal thing if your position is you really want to be employed, but they really can't afford to take on that risk. So use that to help you navigate whether or not some of the things they're asking you to do are really pointing towards an employment relationship and being really clear that that's not what you want to have, or that it is what you want to have. There is a lot more detail I could go into around the kind of clauses that you could have in an employment or a contractor relationship. If you're interested in finding out more, then please do go to my website, spiritlaw.net. Sign up for the emails to find out when the courses are running. I will be doing one around the foundations of teaching and wellnesspreneurship as to the clauses and the terms that we want to be looking at, and going into a bit more detail about how we negotiate that when we're working with other people, especially as your own business, contracting with others to deliver your services through their brand and doors. I hope you enjoy the videos. Please share, please subscribe, and I love hearing your comments, so please do get in touch. And in the meantime, keep shining your light.